I've been thinking a lot about the concepts of the sandbox and of narrative in terms of games, specifically Civ 7, but more generally about civilization games as a whole. And because I come from an academic background, I've thought way too long about these concepts and, feel the need to share. The way I see it, civilization games satisfy three main desires: the need to turn the game into a sandbox by playing and experimenting, the need to look at history and create new narratives, and the need to figure out various ways to win. The truth is that when players complain about a Civ game, it is usually because one of these fundamental needs I've outlined here is not being met. And if I'm being honest, the fourth desire, if you do YouTube videos about these games, is to play them and find material that will attract viewers. All of these things are very different from each other, but they are strangely not mutually exclusive. They're different in important ways. First of all, if you want a sandbox feel in a game, that works against having a strong narrative, because most narratives involve a progression of events and some kind of closure. And experimenting means dislodging or rewriting aspects of the past to answer the question, what if? And the whole drive to win a game means you're more interested in narrowing things down to what works best and not being too distracted by the story, if there is one, or by historical accuracy if you win the space race in the 17th century. But what if we are able to handle the contradictions without even noticing them? The game I'm running on the screen right now is a good example of the things I'm talking about. I decided it would be interesting to play a game with Edward Teach, Blackbeard, as the leader of the Chola. Call it a wet sandbox. Up until the 1.3.0 debate, the Chola were considered a passable but unremarkable civ with a strong ship, the Kalam, but no serious naval game. In fact, no civ had a strong naval game until this update. But I imagined what it might be like for the Chola to be run by Blackbeard. Their potential extra shot each turn would help them convert more ships to piracy and strengthen their overall naval game. I saw it as a story of the once made fun of civ suddenly owning the seas. Meanwhile, Blackbeard got a stronger ship than he had with the Republic of Pirates, and that gave me an even better chance to win. So it was an experiment with no definite outcome, although winning was on my mind. And there was a story here, a rise in importance under just the right tutor. And it was also a story about how you can't count any leader or civ as down and out as Civ 7 continues to develop and shift emphases. But Blackbeard and the Chola are not what this video is about. I've decided that they're part of a larger story I'm planning to tell soon. And I made that decision based on what I think viewers might be more interested in watching. So in just this one game, I've experienced sandbox or experimental thinking, creating a story and planning out a win, while also thinking about what makes for a good video. And the truth is that each of these ways of seeing a game is problematic. Sure, I might think I'm creating a sandbox, but as soon as I introduce cannon fire, I've begun narrowing the parameters of that sandbox just as I've started predetermining what type of story I'm going to tell. Never mind the ahistorical pairing of Blackbeard and the Chola. I'm not going to be building a cultural paradise in this case. And if I was only going for the win, then I would go for something more tried and true rather than an unproven matchup. And if I wanted more viewers, I'd go for something less narrow and with a leader everyone had access to and a civ that was at least a little more popular. And all of this doesn't even touch the desires or interests that are outside the regular play of the game. I'll use examples from Civ 7 again. I have played great games with Ibn Battuta, Jose Rizal, and Napoleon Revolutionary. That colors how I see them. I stumbled across the previously undiscussed Power of Siam early on, and they became one of my favorite civs. My hatred of Xerxes King of Kings goes back to a long all-domination game I played months ago where Xerxes was my main antagonist, and I was sick and struggling to record the game. Meanwhile, I've watched several leaders in civs rise and fall in importance since the game's release. Pachacuti and the Inca have been on a roller coaster, and early reviews of Tecumseh were not good. Then he was the best leader. Then he took a hit with the lower importance of city-states. Hawaii has been up, then down, and now up again with the latest update. These are all narratives outside the parameters of the game itself. Then cap that off with another personal narrative. About 15 years ago, I was asked by the computer science department at my university to design a humanities-focused course on video games. I wrote the proposal, outlined the course, and then wrote up the detailed pitch for the thing. I think Civ 4 was out at the time, and I had also just kicked my WoW addiction and was going through a slew of Xbox games. I was pumped for this, but they went in another direction. And all these ideas I had never went anywhere until I started doing this channel, and some of them would leak out every now and then. So my motives for doing these videos are about a love of the game, but also a way to air my opinions. So there are a lot of things in the way of seeing a civilization game as a sandbox. But there's still an argument to be made in favor of the metaphor. For one thing, many people do not finish their games. Now, this could be down to their already having a big enough lead to assure them they have the win locked down, or it could be that they've seen enough of what they were experimenting with and want to move on to another experiment. And the other factor is the one more turn ability. Players can continue on with a game even after the scores are in, implying that the victory is not the only reason they have stuck it out. It was one of the things players wanted most in Civ 7 when the game was released without that feature. Mind you, this is contrasted by the number of people who post the outrageous final numbers they manage in their games, and the people who monitor the game for the more egregious ahistorical bits that break the narrative spell, like, putting Genghis Khan in Hawaii, for example. The video link is in the description down below. What I find fascinating about the Civilization series is the number of needs these games serve and how these multiple needs can be met simultaneously without breaking stride on a good day. For me, they are all important and keep me playing at different times and in different combinations. I have simply learned to accept the contradictions. But if you have a need to contradict anything I've said here, let me know in the comments. Or if you liked what you've seen or heard, drop a like or a subscribe down below. This is Civilized Raccoon. I'll see you next time.